Government by Danny Roderick from Harvard University. The contents are abstract introduction, the evidence, a probing deeper, and a possible explanation and conclusion. This paper is aiming to explore the source of positive correlation between economies, exposure to international trade, and the size of its government. The paper provides a range of evidence considered consistent with this hypothesis. In particular, the relationship between openness and the government size is strongest when terms of trade risk is high. The correlation is robust in the sense that it is unaffected by the inclusion of other counter variable. It exists for measures of government spending drawn from the available data sets. It prevails for both low and high income countries. It is not an artifact created by authors. The explanation that best fits the evidence is one that focuses on the role of external risk. Societies seem to demand and receive an expanded government role as a price from accepting larger doses of external shocks. And unlike other explanation for the correlation between openness and government size, this one receives considerable support. If the key argument advanced in this paper is valid, a number of ancillary hypotheses follow. Increase in external risk must lead to greater volatility in domestic income and consumption. A larger share of government purchases of goods and services in GDP must reduce income volatility. The risk mitigating role of government spending should be displayed most prominently in social security and welfare spending, particularly in advanced countries that possess the requisite administrative capability to manage social welfare system. In evidence sector, demonstrate the close association between openness and the various measure of government spending. Figure 1 shows the simple relationship between openness and government spending in a sample of 23 OECD countries. The vertical axis represents the government spending as share from GDP, excluding interest payments averaged over 1990 and 92 period. Along the horizontal axis is shown the share of export plus imports in GDP, averaged over the decade 1980-89. Data are from the World Bank's world data of 1995, from government spending and from Penword of openness. The figure reveals an unmistakable applicable positive association between openness and size of government. A semi-logarithmic regression equation fits the data extremely well, explaining 44% of the cross-country variance in government expenditure. Could be an association between openness and the scope of government to be as poor as one. The OECD evidence is in fact fragile against alternative hypotheses, such as the following. Small countries have larger government share and are at the same time more open. European countries have a large government sector and are also more open to present a common market among members of European Union. Another measure of government for the largest sample is real government consumption from the Penworth table. These data have a couple of advantages. For example, if I have two countries with identical level of real government purchases, will appear to have very different shares of government in GDP. If the price index from such purchase relative to GDP and differs. The disadvantage is this measure of government include only consumption and exclude the income transfer and the public investment. Finally, we note that the association between openness and government size apparently exists in all available data sets. In figure 3, in table 3, reports the results of various experiments with the benchmark specification. We use 1985-98 equation for government consumption. One aspect of robustness has already been discussed, the correlation between exposure to trade and the scope of government span. A wide range of data sets and exist for different measures of government size. Why this relationship exists? More open economies have a greater exposure to the risk emanating from turbulence in world markets. We can view larger government spending in such economy and as performing an insulation function is far the government sector in the safe sector relative to other activities and especially compared to tradables. And is country significantly affected by external shocks, the government can mitigate risk by taking command of a larger share of economic source. Simple model. We have this formula where lambda is the employees in the public sector, and 1 minus lambda is employed in private sector. And I will maximize this function for found this maximize my correlation. Empirical test A test of our central hypothesis can be carried out by checking whether relationship between openness and government consumption is stronger in economy which are exposed to greater amount of external risk. The role of social security and welfare spending. If government spending plays a risk mitigating role, we should expect to see this primarily reflected in income transfer programs and in social security and welfare spending. The results are interesting for each of three groups of country. The estimate coefficient on external risk is considerably larger in the social security and welfare regression than in the government consumption regression. This indicates that spending on social security and welfare is significantly more sensitive and to exposure to external risk than is government consumption, which is consistent with our theory. Can a higher level of government consumption stabilize income? We assume that increasing government size is costly to real activity either because it has to be financed by distortionally and taxes, or because government production is less efficient. Hence, in practice, we can expect to observe level of government consumption that fall well short of the point where no full reduction in income volatility could be achieved. Conclusion: the correlation between openness and the government size is positive, and for one thing, it makes it more difficult to disentangle the relationship between government size and openness, and openness on the one hand, and economic growth on the other. Most type of government intervention, save from those related to the provision of public goods, law and order, and property rights, are viewed as inimical to the operation of market. The international integration of markets is often perceived as undercutting the effectiveness of governmental action at the national level. The scope of government being larger, not smaller, in economies talking greater advantage from advantage of world markets. International trade has expanded significantly during the post-war period, despite some revolts since the 1980s. So has the scope of government activity in most countries of the world. The findings presented in this paper suggest that this was perhaps no coincidence looking forward.
You pressed it.